Hello, welcome to the show, which is called A Case For. This season, we will be taking a look at a case for diversity, right? So, the theme for the entire season is going to be how we can push the envelope, especially considering this is a very testing times, like we need to kind of start vocalizing some of the things. And the idea is not to make big claims or like do some groundbreaking work, but the idea is probably just to share our stories so that we can humanize some of the numbers that we see on LinkedIn. And we can probably just trying to understand that, okay, where do different people come from. And I want to start our interview or our entire show with one question: is how would you introduce yourself if I ignore the information that we see on LinkedIn? Tell me something which probably you'll not find on LinkedIn.
No, it's super funny because I had exactly the same chat with a friend yesterday, and he
Mm-hmm.
was telling me about this. So I think it's one of the most challenging things to take out gender labels, where I'm from, where I worked, and where I studied.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, I have an answer ready because I
Yeah.
thought about it before. Yeah, I mean, for me at least, it's just that I love curiosity, and I am super curious. And that entails a lot of things, which is I want to try new things. I am unafraid at being bad at them in the beginning because I want to persevere and be really, really good at it if it is something that I care about. And I am also, like open to new experiences and then judging whether I like it or not. So this curiosity has led me to many, many good things. For
Yeah.
instance, like trying to live abroad, or trying to work in the public and social sector, or
Ah.
being or like literally half the time I'm traveling solo, eating alone at restaurants. But because I feel that I'm super open, like everywhere that I go, I
Mm-hmm.
find people who are warm, affectionate, helpful, and queer somehow. And I feel every disadvantage in my mind, it's a disadvantage that, oh,
Yeah.
I'm alone, I can't speak the language, and so on. I'm queer and I'm scared. It actually becomes an advantage because
Ah.
you can turn it into one. Because I'm open to new experiences. I'm open to learning on the way, and I have made some mistakes along the way where I
Yeah.
literally got scammed like crazy, or
Wow.
like got chased down the road at midnight in Istanbul. But I take learnings from that. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
be curious but not too much.
Yeah. No, plus at the same time, it gives you interesting stories, right, on a dinner table.
Super interesting. Yeah, super interesting stories for life.
Yeah.
And even though I love planning
Mm-hmm.
every detail in my life, like
Yeah.
everything is calendarized and planned, I think the most memorable experiences have been unplanned.
Mm.
From let's say coming out to my best friend, that was
Yeah.
super unplanned, or finding love along the way when I never believed in it.
Yeah.
That was unplanned. Also having heartbreaks along the way, that is unplanned.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's just being open and curious, I think, is the most important thing to me.
Was that the same curiosity that gave birth to Q Connect? And, was that an experiment in the beginning? Like, how did it started?
Yeah, I think Connect is not it is the culmination of many things, because how
Mm-hmm.
this started was actually that I have in 2017, that was when I actually, like, let's say, came out to myself when I was in IIM Bangalore. And the reason I was curious then is that there was one question on my mind. I'm like, okay, I know that I'm gay, and I've known that for many years, like since I was a teenager. But
Yeah.
how do I not know a single gay person that is out and that I can respect, or that I have as a friend? I don't have
Yeah.
even one. And there are,
Yeah.
in India itself, there's like 1.4 billion people, 500 million working people. In my college, there's at least 2,000, 4,000 people, not one person.
Yeah.
So the question on my mind was, am I alone?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was in Bangalore,
Yeah.
10, 15 million people. I'm like, am I alone? And am I the only freak out there?
Yeah.
And then the answer was obviously not. That is not the case. But where are these queer people? So
Mm.
I think that that was the question that was on my mind. Somehow I had the right friends, and this friend kind of hugged me when I came out, and she's like, I'm going to fight with you against the world. And then I discovered these dating apps, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, actually there's not, if not hundreds, there are thousands of queer people all around me. It's
Mhm,
just that
mhm.
at the age of 21, or at the age of 23, actually I just didn't know. And that was when we started something called Quest, which still exists, and it's a queer club in IIM Bangalore. It's official now. The best part is that we started it in 2017 when this was criminalized in India. But
Mm.
like a friend of mine, Rohit, John Philip, who's literally 10 years older to me, and we approached Vasanti ma'am, who's
Okay.
this teacher in organization development, and she was like, I'm going to fight with you against the world. You can shout this out in the corridors. I don't care about legal implications. This is a question of human rights, and I will support you no matter what. That was the beginning of my involvement with queer rights. Like,
Mm.
and honestly, I would not say it was in a vacuum. Like, I was inspired by IIM Ahmedabad. They already had something called IIM Ally.
Huh? Uh-huh.
So all of this curiosity and all, it started in 2017 with that
Mm.
organization in IIM Bangalore.
Yeah.
And I mean, since then, I have been super lucky to be in environments or organizations where one thing just led to the other. So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
joined McKinsey.
Yeah.
Very strangely, like the internship that I was on, the associate partner was a lesbian, and I did not even register that.
Yeah.
I was super homophobic actually, because I was internally homophobic to her, but I saw some examples and I saw the partner stand up for her against the
Mhm, mhm.
client, and he said, I don't care about your money, but if you don't respect her, we're walking out.
Yeah.
So that was again another, like,
Wow.
aha moment for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went on to lead Glam in
Mhm.
McKinsey, which is a queer employee resource group in that
Mhm.
company. And only then, I think in 2021, we started Connect. With I started it with another McKinsey colleague, because
Mhm.
what we were discussing at that point is
Yeah.
we have started organizations which are like queer friendly, but they are attached to certain institutions. You
Yeah.
have to be in IIM Bangalore to be part of Quest. You have to be in McKinsey to be part of GLAM, which is called
Yeah.
Equal now. So we're like, okay, but what about all the other people in tier 2 plus cities who don't have access to such resources? What
True.
about people who are not strategy consultants or MBA professionals, but are
Mhm.
equally interesting? Like, they could be
Yeah.
architects and designers. What about cross collaboration? Like, why do I only want to be stuck to people who are in the same professional community
Circle.
as me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the white space that we identified, to say
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
let's collaborate across, because we are in such a unique position with so much diversity, not only in terms of gender and sexual identities, but also professions, locations, languages, geographies. Let's make use of that. And
Yeah.
honestly, we were a little tired of the hundreds of people asking us, how do you
Yeah.
set up a queer club in XYZ? We're like, okay, you don't have to
Yeah.
depend on like some homophobic CEO and senior professionals and fight all the time against them. Let's create a
Yeah.
space outside of that. And that is why we created Connect in 2021. Super
You
long one
mentioned
answer, but yeah.
no, I want to pick on something which you mentioned, which is fight the world and homophobic world in general, right? I want to understand that, did you see the same pushback in your initial days, or even right now, like when it comes to Connect? Like, I'm sure there must be like some stories, but anything that stood out really?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, in our initial, let's say, market testing, or just testing how the environment was, I think we were pretty shocked, because even the best institutions were not equipped at all,
uh,
to deal with this on campus.
yeah.
I know stories where the counselor literally had told us that, okay, yeah, we did have people telling us that they had queer experiences, or that they had certain feelings. But you know what I told them? Like, oh my God, no, this is a distraction. You should like practice yoga and
Wow.
meditation and get your mind off of these things because this is just wrong.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I was like, thank God I didn't come to you
Yeah.
first. And I actually researched myself, or I have
Yeah.
friends who understand me,
Mhm.
because I was extremely lucky
Yeah.
to have the right friends. You can't
Mm.
imagine that even in the biggest
Yep.
metropolitan metro cities, with the best resources, with the best education, you are not guaranteed, someone who can speak rational logic. So that was a very personal experience, which actually motivated me to say that this doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
And I can't believe, and actually my biggest motivation was like, I suffered so much myself for no
Yeah.
reason. Like, why did I waste so much time doubting myself when I was in the best institute, literally doing the best things?
Mhm.
I should have, I didn't need to suffer through that. And then when I unlocked that, then I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I've understood something. Why not just spread this information to other people as well? I'm sure others are in a very similar boat.
Yeah.
So I didn't want them to go to the counselor and obviously get misled like
Mhm. Mhm.
this in something that is so simple.
Yeah.
So that is one thing. The second thing I think is not first hand experience, but second, and I don't want to name some institutes, but literally some very close friends who are trying to open similar clubs in their engineering colleges.
Yeah.
Dean was just absolutely not. This is morally corrupt, this is wrong, this is unnecessary, all sorts of excuses. It's a little surprising that, okay, this is not going to harm anybody. It's literally legal in the country.
Yeah.
There is visible interest that we've shown through students, faculty, and so on. But you just want to oppose it for your own personal moral judgment,
Yeah.
moral compass, and so on. And I think that unfortunately, this is even in 2025, this is rampant.
I'm sure.
And the biggest learning for me,
Mhm.
which I would have not said before, but which I say now,
Yeah.
is that no matter how many pride flags your company puts up or how many queer friendly policies they have to be careful, because your boss may be homophobic
Yeah.
in spite of all the sensitization sessions, workshops, and so on. And I have seen that personally.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
faced it personally, and I think I have
Oh.
been too optimistic about it.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, I would say don't trust the country, the company, the policies, what people say.
Yeah.
Trust what people do.
Yeah. That's actually pretty strong because like I think I've never personally faced it, and I've been lucky in that sense, because I think, like, again, similar journey that you mentioned, right? Like, I came out pretty late. There was this internal homophobia I was fighting through, and the first person then who heard me was my best friend, and like, she was super encouraging. But in
Same.
my case, I don't know why. Like, it was never like, oh, like, fight against the world. I don't know which world was I fighting against, but like, you know,
No, I
sadly,
mean,
I
to
didn't
be
get to get
fair,
that.
but to be fair, you asked me about the difficult times. I mean,
Yeah,
there's 100 other cases of how people have rallied,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
especially allies. I would
Yeah.
say that Quest and Bangalore is run by allies, not by
Hmm.
queer people,
Hmm.
because they are more confident. They're more confident about being out. There was
Hmm.
literally, and it's a super funny story, because after we started it we got it registered in 2018. The
Yeah.
person actually, like Rohit and I went to the all night canteen. It was like 11 p.m. And we were just talking about this. And randomly, this girl comes and she starts fighting with us.
Okay.
Why are you wasting your time on this? This is so unimportant. Like, do you think this is necessary in a business school? I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
why are you coming at us? Like,
Worked
we're not
up.
even talking to you. No, but then Rohit, being Rohit, because he's like 10 years older than me, he's like 33, he sat down, explained everything to her, had a calm conversation, and she literally became the head of Quest. And I have
Wow.
seen very few people who've worked as diligently, as honestly with this. So I was like, okay, sometimes it's good that people express their minds,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then you can change their minds and they are much, much more dedicated and authentic, because you have convince them about something that they never believed in.
Yeah.
So it's not always bad. I think it has good endings sometimes.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting story because I think I've never seen such a drastic transformation. So,
No,
that's
actually,
always.
the best takeaway from that is
Mm-hmm.
that, let's say people are homophobic, but you might want to give them a chance to
Yeah.
express themselves. Why are
Yeah.
you homophobic? Is this
Yeah.
your conditioning? Is it religion? Is it personal experience? Is it internalized homophobia? And I think once you touch that core and address
Mm-hmm.
it, and if you have the time and patience, you can't engage with every homophobe, but
Yeah.
sometimes
True.
it yields very good results. And it is better for people to be open and transparent
Mm-hmm.
than act,
Yeah.
use the right
Yeah.
terminologies, but actually they don't care, or they
Yeah.
actually want to harm you.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
Homophobes also wear rainbow flags because it serves their purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Through my AI research,
Yeah.
I got to know that, like you've worked on or designed certain playbooks, scorecards, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to understand that how in today's world, how would you see if there's one parameter or like a KPI that every company should follow so that it leads to better transparency? And I want to understand in general, like what was the motivation to create these playbooks, these scorecards and stuff. Yeah.
No, honestly, there is no one KPI
Yeah.
because it's a very subjective, and it has many parameters. But
Mm-hmm.
I will say that there is something you can do which is implemented. I've seen this in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
called a DEI score.
Yeah.
So basically, all the employees answer certain questions, and that can
Mm-hmm.
be tailored to the country,
Oh,
company, or whatever. And then you have a score from 1 to 10 to say, are you 6 on 10, 8.1 on 10? Like, what is your score? And these KPIs were, or OKRs as they were called, are
mm-hmm.
actually cascaded across the domains and teams, and the VPs were held accountable to that because they had,
Okay.
each of the VPs had 5 6 OKRs that they were accountable to.
Okay.
The chief, let's say chief officers, the C-suite executives. So there is a way to practically implement this very very easily.
Yeah.
And honestly, the company that I worked for, the CEO, in spite of super super big tailwinds against ENI, he said,
Yeah.
I know that this diversity strategy was made in a certain environment. We have done all our research and we know this works for us.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing is going to change that commitment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're not changing anything, even if the world is changing,
Mm.
based on what happened in some countries, as
Yeah.
everyone is aware. So that level of commitment, baking into OKRs, revising it, having a DEI officer, someone who's a specialist, I've seen it work in practice, and it's super practical. And I
Yeah.
think that we can get there. There are some companies in India which are trying, at least. There are
Yeah.
some experiments like
Yeah.
Godrej, Axis Bank, and so on. On the other hand, what playbooks did we create as part of Connect? I think that those were very specific to educational institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, we went to the Plaksha University because I had a professor who works there, and we just went and said, okay, if you have queer students, how do you become a good ally, both
Mm-hmm.
as a colleague
Yeah.
and as a professor or a teacher and as a counselor? Like, how do you become a good ally? And I gave very specific instances to say, that this is what queer students can go through, and this is how you can, step by step create a resource group,
Mm.
direct people to the counselor. But even as a
Yeah.
professor, you can be a listening board.
Very true.
Again, that was not theoretical. It
Yeah.
was like 100% practical, because the professor who called me
Yeah.
was the one that I actually opened up to, and he is in regular touch with me. Like, he's from BITS
Wow.
Pilani,
Yeah.
and he tells me nonstop. He asks me that, okay, there's so many students, like at least 10, 15 students a year, who come to him,
Mm-hmm.
and they come out to him because he is like this informal counselor, right? And when you live in
Wow.
Pilani, which is in the middle of nowhere, frankly, you
Yeah.
have no other support system. He gets students all the time coming
Yeah.
out and opening up to him. So he
Yeah.
needs to be equipped to help them out.
Mm.
And you know that in India, like, student suicides is a big deal. So being able to prevent all of that
Yeah.
as a professor is incredible, because you're changing your
Very true.
students' lives not
Yeah.
only through education but also through personal matters.
Yeah.
And I am so indebted to him for so many things. I mean,
Mm.
his name is, Professor Kannan, and he's a professor of biology.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with his course curriculum, but
Yeah.
he is that figure of authority
Wow.
that everyone looks up to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is what the playbook was aimed at doing, which is, like, can we do that for to can we make better allies in educational institutions?
Yeah.
And similar stuff like, what can we make better allies at the workplace, and
Yeah.
what policies can you change at the workplace
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
well. None of it is theoretical.
Yeah.
Literally, like,
Yeah.
I've gone through it myself. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's very rare for someone to be this curious and to take that initiative. And like hats off to that professor, because I think that that's something which is extremely rare. I remember during my initial days there was that struggle, and I was very close to some of my female teachers, right, in my school. And I mean, of course, I didn't get very positive responses, but it was not negative, and I think that kind of shaped up how we end up being. But I want to mention about the scorecard, and you mentioned something on the lines. In Europe we have something called an Indian Workplace Equality
Hmm.
Index, right? So did you get the have you ever gotten a chance to take a look at it? Do you think,
I have,
you know
absolutely.
yeah, is it effective even though it's not sponsored by government?
Yeah. No, honestly, I'm well aware of it, because somehow the Indian queer space is quite small.
Small.
And since I've been doing it since 2021, I somehow
Yeah.
know all 20 people who are involved in it. So I
Yeah.
know that, this is probably like Pride Circle. Ram Krishna Sinha also, incidentally, is from the same college as me.
Mm-hmm.
He's from BITS Goa. I was in
Yeah.
Pilani.
Mm-hmm.
So I am well aware of that list, and what they're trying to do is
Yeah.
incredible,
Yeah.
incredibly good.
Yeah.
I honestly have not gone through the exact methodology, but I know which companies are in the gold, platinum tier, and so on.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I am not in the best position to comment on how effective it is, because, again, like, involvement of the government in
Yeah.
this, I don't know if that is going to,
Ever
help
happen.
ever happen or even improve things much, because this is a super private sector enterprise.
Mm.
It's super focused on private sector. It's super focused on jobs and employment in
Yeah.
the private sector. So I think
Yeah.
it's fine for Pride Circle to do it.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is, again, like, you need senior leadership buy-in, and that is why, like, at least when I was in McKinsey, like, we had the India and global CEO investing time directly. Like, they were literally sending emails.
Yeah.
They literally made a video with It Gets Better India, which I think is an initiative by
Okay.
Keshav Suri and
Yeah.
the Lalit group.
Yeah.
So you had senior leadership sponsorship
Mm-hmm.
within the
Mm-hmm.
company and externally, and that is why everything was being driven on priority.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is where it comes to Connect's vision, actually, which is, we want to see out and proud queer leaders,
Mm.
because
Very true.
every time we try to get a, I don't know, a round table, fireside chat, or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
there are not more than 10, 15 people, even for a
Yep.
podcast,
Yep. Yep.
actually.
Yep.
It is the same people who are rotating. I mean, even if I think off the top of my head, it's always Parmesh Shahani, or Radhika Perumal,
Yeah.
or Keshav Suri. Literally, how can you have 10 people in a country with 500 million people who work, and even
Mm.
conservatively 10-12% is queer, 50 million people, and you get 10?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
True.
It's very similar to, like, women corporate leaders. Where are the
Yeah.
women leaders on the boards?
Yeah.
You can hardly name them.
Very true.
Otherwise, if it is like an HR thing, and I mean, in a derogatory way, you can see how people are like, HR doing Rangoli and,
Yeah. Yeah.
DEI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody cares then.
Yeah.
So I think you have to take a practical lens
Mm-hmm.
to this, and
Yeah.
you need to get leaders excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think there were initiatives around this. I have to I have to really catch up on the latest, but I know that Ali Bhotia, senior partner at McKinsey now, I mean,
Hmm.
he's ex McKinsey now, they
Yeah.
were trying to bring a roundtable of senior corporate leaders in different companies. I know this definitely exists in the US
Yeah.
and in Europe. They
Yeah.
have, forgetting the name, but they have many roundtable conferences with like senior executives who talk about this publicly and they queer themselves.
Yeah.
So if we can bring that to India, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's shift gear and try to go slightly more personal. You've worked in Denmark and then you've worked in India. Um, how did you see, the environment or the conversations around diversity change, even in terms of policies, at workplace level? Do you think European countries are slightly more forthcoming, whereas in India, is it? I mean, I might be just stereotyping it, but like, is it just an afterthought, or is it, what's the difference that you've
Yeah.
noticed yourself?
Um, I mean, there's a really funny analogy to this, and it's counterintuitive, very
Yeah.
counterintuitive, which is I feel like India is like this young, brash teenager, like super
Yeah.
excited about something new, and this is the
Yeah.
new shiny toy.
Uh,
So, and Europe is like a middle-aged person going through midlife crisis.
yeah.
They've gone through all of this. They're not
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah.
So I have never seen more LGBTQIA plus diversity, equity, whatever initiatives than in I've never seen more events than in India
Oh,
because we
yeah.
just decriminalized it in 2018,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
6 September 2018, section 377. Before
Mm,
that, you had radio silence.
yeah.
So obviously after that, everyone is trying to jump over each other
Yeah.
to grab the initiative. So we are super excited. It's
Mm,
all over. There are
yeah.
policies everywhere. You're creating gender neutral washrooms. You're getting same sex insurance coverage. You're
Mm,
shouting about it from the tops of your
stop.
roofs and so on. Everyone is super excited about it. Everyone is using pronouns in their emails. It's very explicit. There is
Mm,
no hiding. People are saying it explicitly because it's never been talked about
yeah.
before 2018, and that's a
Yeah.
fact. Yeah, in Europe, I think, like, okay, this has been, let's say, same-sex civil partnership, at least in Denmark, has been legal since the 1980s. So everyone is a little jaded, and
Yeah.
I, in very, very personal opinion, don't think that that was a great model, and we shouldn't idolize, like, a Western country or like Western policies
True.
and say they've
True.
figured it out.
Yeah.
They have not figured a lot of things that they need to introspect, and I'm sure that they are doing that,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to their credit.
Yeah.
And we have a very different journey, and we
Yeah.
need to also introspect and do our own. We're in different phases,
Yeah.
so you cannot compare a teenager with midlife, like, career professional, right?
Yeah.
There's no comparison. We're
Yeah.
still doing internships and they are literally C-suite executives. Like, what comparison is there?
Yeah.
While Denmark has a lot of institutionalized equality, and you can literally get married in like 2 minutes. You
Yeah.
go to the town hall, you get married in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And they're desperate to get gay couples married for some reason. Half my friends are like, we just went there for something else. And they're like, oh, okay, why don't you get married? So it's really funny. I mean, it's so easy there. But
Yeah.
having said that, are there zero hate crimes in Denmark on the queer front? No. I literally saw an article myself about a trans person being killed in a hotel. Trigger warning on that, in Copenhagen in 2024.
Yeah.
So I don't think they have, and I think that they are much more subtle about it. So
Yeah.
you talk
That's
about
scary.
it. Yeah, but you also about DEI, you talk about it during Pride Month,
Yeah.
maybe in June, International Pride Month, and probably now in July.
Mm-hmm.
Copenhagen Pride is huge, but they have the same political tensions. They have the same fragmentation. There are many, many
Okay.
splinter groups because they
Mm-hmm.
have different interests.
Yeah.
And some of the splinters are around people of color having a different thing, or
Mm,
immigration, or like people who are non-European,
yeah.
etc. There are so many fractures and divisions within that movement itself
Mm,
that I don't think uh, you know either model is perfect.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Of course, like objectively, are they much ahead in many of the civil and political rights?
Hmm.
Yes. Are they perfect and you should like expect the world from them and we are nowhere? No.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the short answer.
Hmm. Going back to your, experiences with Connect, what was one of the most unexpected things that you kind of got to learn? And was there like some interesting mentor and a mentee match that really
Yeah.
surprised you? Yeah,
No, absolutely. I think very good question. So we have run this mentorship program for 6 batches. It is
yeah,
basically you telling us, "Hey, I am a young architect. I have 2 years of experience, and I want to find ways of moving to New York because
mm,
I want to work for a certain firm." And then we find the right match for you. That is how the program works. Then you have like 6 mentorship calls, and you set out goals, and then you measure yourself against those goals.
yeah,
So around those 2 points, I think the biggest and most counterintuitive thing for me is a lot of what we do is virtual.
hmm,
Of course, we've had many city events in Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, etc. But
yeah,
I received, I think, one of the most heartfelt and really long messages from someone from a really interior part, I think Pilibhit or some part of Uttar Pradesh. And they were like, I felt I was alone and I have found family, I found a
wow,
community. Yeah, because I don't feel alone anymore. And I'm like, apart from every other jazz that we've done, this is the message that hits me most
yeah,
because that was exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to feel alone and
yeah,
like a freak. And I'm like, that was the most powerful message for me. And I
yeah,
think what is most counterintuitive for me, and I have been to many remote villages of
hmm,
India, super
yeah,
remote, is that I myself have a lot of biases and I feel that, oh, I'm privileged, I live in a big city, we have the terminologies for everything.
yeah,
In these small villages, they have internet access,
hmm,
and often the amount of talent, the amount of awareness, the amount of acceptance is
mm,
at least that
okay,
of the best part of Delhi,
yeah,
quote unquote
wow,
best part.
yeah,
Why? It's because they don't have the right terminology. They're not fake about it. They
yeah,
actually embrace it.
hmm,
So I'm not trying to romanticize rural India or some, like some super remote. I'm not trying to romanticize. Of course, there
yeah,
are horrible things that happen,
yeah, yeah,
that may happen, but this entire idea that there cannot be a queer person who exists in this village who actually lives out and proud with
yeah,
their partner
hmm,
in their family and
yeah,
knows everything about queer culture in the world and is creating their own kind of
yeah,
reality around this. The fact that we can't imagine such a thing by living in a city is itself a bias. So that
hmm,
was the biggest thing that I learned,
hmm,
that people are fighting their own little battles and winning in many places, in Gorakhpur, Gonda,
yeah,
Maharajganj, Pilibhit, and all these other places, which if you read the newspapers, you would never
yeah,
imagine that
yeah,
someone can live a happy and queer existence in such
yeah,
places. So biggest counterintuitive learning for me is that pure acceptance of I actually love my kid, or I will let you be who you are, is
hmm,
stronger there than anything that I've seen
wow,
in Delhi, at least, or
yeah,
in Mumbai. People
hmm,
are because here it's performative, it's not real. So that is one. The second story about, okay, which matches really made sense. I think one thing that I have to be honest about, that we are really struggling with, is gender equality, because I am cis male.
yeah,
Most of my friends are cis male. Everyone that I know, like, and I've looked at the stats, minimum 85, 90+% of all the events, workshops are always male dominated. So the fact that I actually got this message from a girl who is from Bits Pilani actually, and she said,
hmm,
I was in your previous mentorship cohort as a mentee. I started up and I was looking for ways of raising capital. And I am signing up again because I've been successful. I've set up my startup. I've got all the funding that I wanted, and I want to be a mentor now, to pay it forward. I
yeah,
think that was one of the best kind of success stories. I wasn't looking for it, but then the fact that she came back to me,
hmm,
thanked me, is re engaging. I think if you're a product manager also, you want re-engagement, or
Yeah. Yeah.
you talk about customer lifetime value. So retaining and re-engaging people is really quite
Crazy.
powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one big learning for me is that I cannot and we cannot help everyone, because
Mm.
again, I think this is quite India specific, but people are very entitled. They
Yeah.
think that they will not pay anything and they will get everything for free,
Yeah.
or they will, at least use people's time and energy in return for nothing. And I'm like, no, we will focus on quality, but
Mm.
we want results from that. And that means that you need to focus on few people who are invested, with their time and energy. And it doesn't matter where you come from, but
Yeah.
your intentions matter. And these specific stories of people who have engaged, who care about it, who come back, who thank, who acknowledge,
Yeah.
is what keeps me motivated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have 17, 18 other fellows. That is also
Yeah.
another thing. They're all volunteers, and they work. They put in a lot of their time and energy, again,
Mm-hmm.
for in return for at least no monetary gain for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of this is, yeah, it's a story of that is counterintuitive. It is a success story, and it is a lot of takeaways that are quite insightful for me.
You actually answered like partially the next question that I had, which was that, like, we have noticed this pattern in queer communities, right? That the queer men take up
Yeah,
most of the space in the room. Uh,
yeah.
it has a lot of layers to it. And, like, I think like that'll be a whole different podcast. But how do you ensure that every letter of LGBTQI, right, has a genuine opportunity to be either a mentor or a mentee, and or probably even some sort of an approach where you encourage more.
No, I think that luckily there are collaborations. So we can collaborate with other queer organizations that are, let's say female led, or that
Yeah.
have a focus on trans folk.
Hmm.
So there are ways in which those founders have their own networks, and
Yeah.
we kind of tap into them. So one is collaboration. For example, the Tweet Foundation is very focused on trans people, and there's Gay India also, which is not
Yeah.
more diverse.
Yeah.
And there are many other organizations in Delhi and Mumbai, etc.,
Yeah.
which are non-cis male focused.
Hmm.
Collaboration is one. The second is incentives. So we
Hmm.
say that we will prioritize applications from, let's say, uh, you know, marginalized communities, even
Yeah.
within the queer community.
Yeah.
Which means that if there is membership fee, or if there is some exclusive access or benefit, we prioritize those applications.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which still means, okay, you need to show intent, you have to have
Yeah.
quality of what you are looking for, but of course we will look for such applications more. so
Hmm.
so there's
Hmm.
some sort of incentive. Honestly, apart from that, we have also some fellows. Unfortunately, like, you can imagine, out of 16 fellows, there's only one or two who are non-cis male, but I
Hmm.
try to tap into their network as well,
Hmm.
to kind of see that, okay, do you have friends, etc. So we go through first degree contacts
Yeah.
through them. I don't think this is enough
Hmm.
at all.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is that I think that the bigger the city, the more segregated the circles. So in a city like Berlin, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Mumbai, everyone has their own niche, because there's
Hmm.
so many people that you can
Yeah.
form niches. And something that I saw in Lucknow, which is that people who are non-cis male are much more vocal and active, because it's such
Hmm.
a small community that everyone has to
Wow.
fight for the same space.
Yeah.
So I actually felt that that was a really good model, because it was more
Yeah.
intimate. People fight for their space. They're not
Yeah.
afraid to be in each other's spaces.
Hmm.
I don't know the answer. I don't know why this is a big city phenomenon where
Yeah.
everyone wants to create their own niche and they don't want to talk with each other.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I don't know what that magic is, and I'm not going to romanticize it by saying everything was hunky dory. They had their
Yeah.
own fights in Lucknow, same fights. No, it wasn't even a struggle, it was a manufactured fight.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
No, there's politics everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anywhere
Yeah.
there's more than two people, there's politics. But if you overlook all of that,
Yeah.
they were much more mixed than anything that I've seen in a big city. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love, I mean, if your listeners or someone else has suggestions on how we can be more inclusive of gender minorities, we'd be happy to know. I don't
Yeah.
have the answer. I just
Yeah.
told you the three things that we do, which is honestly minimal, if I had to be honest.
No, but I like the fact that, there's a sense of introspection, and that, because I think in one of the first conversations that when you were introducing everyone for this year, you did mention that. So I can see that there's a good intent, and hopefully, someone probably who's listening to this will suggest us some interesting solutions.
Absolutely.
I want to understand the magic sauce that you have when it comes to putting a mentee and a mentor together. How does that work? Like, is there like some sort of specific techniques that you follow? What signals do you make usually, like, in general, to kind of have that
Yeah.
relationship?
No, we use a voodoo board.
That'll be interesting.
No, honestly, I had no idea how it's done.
Yeah,
And that is another point, right? There is some institutional memory. We've done this before.
yeah,
Honestly, Meghna was the one doing it, so I had no idea how you do it.
yeah,
But if I distill it, there is no AI behind it. I was so tempted to
yeah,
put in all the things into AI and
yeah,
match.
yeah,
But then I was like, I know many of these people personally, and there are many things that they write which they mean something else, or it you have to know the person to know
yeah,
what they actually want.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
it's not an AI automated thing for now, at least. But
Hmm.
I think the secret sauce honestly is in asking the right questions. We have not perfected it, but we have a certain questionnaire for mentors and mentees
Yeah.
where we are trying to be as specific and giving them clarity to say, okay, where are you coming from? Where are you right now? And where do you want to go?
Mm.
Uh, some broad outlines. And I think the biggest magic source success story for me is that you want to connect people who are similar but not the same, and there are many, many other learnings. And you want to
Yeah.
connect people who are, if you have 2 to 4 years of experience, you want to connect them with someone with 5, 6 years, only 2, 3 years
True.
ahead of them. Because,
True.
in your mind, you would be like, oh, we want to get the best C-suite, executives with all these fancy titles. Doesn't work, because they are going to
Okay.
give you some gyan, which
Yeah.
is so generic, which literally applied in the 80s, and we're in 2025. How does that matter to me? It
Mm.
doesn't. So some of the feedback that we got is you have to look at the right variables. Like, I have
Oh.
worked 2 to 4 years. I don't want somebody who's like 15 years experience. I want someone who's like 4 to 6, just 2, 3 years ahead of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas there are some other people who are already in senior leadership positions, like of AVP, VP.
Yeah.
They have 7 to 10 years of experience. Obviously, they need someone who is
Yeah.
older to them,
Yeah. Yeah.
quote unquote. So
Yeah.
you need to know the right matching to say, okay, what is the years of experience?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that, okay, industry. Many people want to transition to another industry. So it's not that, okay, you have to match an architect with an architect. Like, sometimes
Yeah.
an architect has much more insight from a UX designer because
Mm.
they want to pivot
Yeah.
professions or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that they should be similar, but you also want to connect them with someone who is not their first degree connection that they could speak to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And we have revised some connections also that way. Like, I am a strategy consultant. I am not interested in talking to a McKinsey BCG Bain person. Like, okay, half my
Yeah.
friends are that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't have friends in the public and social sector, for instance, that much.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and I faced it myself. I was like, okay, I don't know anyone who works in the Clinton Foundation, but I want to work
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So, but I found some connection somehow, and then
Yeah.
so the magic sauce is actually trying to find out as specifically as possible what they want,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
matching them with someone close enough, but
Yeah.
not like directly in the same line, because
Mm.
you need to be challenged a little bit also to think beyond, to think outside of your one track mind and one track lane.
Yeah.
And there's no AI. It's literally a lot of sweat, blood,
I'm sure.
tears, Excel,
Mm.
Google Sheets.
Something that scares me a lot. So,
I love it a lot, actually.
I mean, it's your world, so I can imagine that.
I will not lie.
Yeah.
there is a lot of analytics to it, and there
Yeah.
is some level of intuition and feedback,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
I think is more important, which I'm not great at, and we
Yeah.
are trying to get better, right?
Yeah.
Speak to us. So and people have been very, very good at giving us feedback. So that works. Yeah. Still work in progress. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing because, like, I think having that level of feedback also not just allows you to grow, but it also tries
Yeah.
to understand that, not just your shortcomings, but in general, like how you can progress and how you can pan out, like, and what are the other possibilities that you might not have thought of, in that sense. So that's
Exactly.
always pretty nice. But I want to understand that, in the initial days, were there some sort of a missteps or some lessons that were learned?
Many, many lessons.
Hmm.
So first of all, we don't exist in a vacuum. I think that Leap Club is also a really good mentorship program, but unfortunately they are closing down now. They got a lot of traction in the beginning, but it's women focused, but
Yeah.
they were not, they also had a lot of missteps.
Hmm.
Don't want to go into too many of those, too many details there. But
Yeah.
what are the learnings that we have had? I think three big learnings. One is quantity is not equal to quality or depth
Mm-hmm.
of engagement. So
Yeah.
in the beginning, we were like, oh, we'll get 100 people, get 150, 200, and we did. There's no problem at all.
Yeah.
But are those people engaging? Are they taking something away? Or do they just think this is a human job board?
Mm.
Many people do not understand what mentorship is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, okay, mentorship can get you a job
Yeah.
down the road if you form a good relationship with your mentor and they want to
Mhm.
recommend you. But
Yeah.
this is not a place you randomly send your CV without putting like with putting zero effort and saying,
Mm.
get me a job. That
Yeah.
is insulting, you
Yeah.
know? It's
Very.
insulting to everyone involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Biggest lesson, number one, is we don't need 100 150 matches. We'll
Mm.
actually make it exclusive and get only 35 mentors and mentees
Yeah.
matched.
Yeah.
So quality and depth of engagement over quantity. That is the
Mm.
most important takeaway or
Yeah.
lesson one. I
Yeah.
think lesson two is super counterintuitive, but the quality of mentors and the
Yeah.
enthusiasm that they have is infinitely more than that of mentees, and I do not know why even now. So
Yeah.
essentially you have people who are senior executives who are dedicating a
Yeah.
lot of their time and energy
Yeah.
into wanting to mentor a queer person, and the
Mm.
mentors are also allies,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
necessarily queer, but queer people are just not interested. In the sense, many of them applications are terrible.
Okay.
So I don't know if we are not tapping into the right, and I'm being brutally honest here.
Yeah.
Like we have taken a lot of effort to
Mm.
curate this environment, to get you the right mentors.
Yeah.
I am a little shocked by how people treat it. Like
Mm.
they treat it with absolutely disregard.
Mm.
You know, filling in applications that are half empty, wanting just a job with zero qualifications that match the job. Like, can you self assess and see if you even deserve that?
Yeah.
Not getting enough numbers and having to like remind people 10 times. I do not understand why.
Mm.
Maybe, I mean, mentorship is not a concept in India. It's totally possible, but I have to be brutally honest that I was and am still quite disappointed with how that there is not enough engagement with mentees, and
Mm.
especially when it's free. When
Mm.
it is free, people don't care.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to get some level of commitment from mentees, and when people pay, they care about it a little more.
Probably. Yeah.
And then that mentee engagement also, which is after you've matched them with someone,
Yeah.
they just refuse to, like, they don't steal calls, they miss calls, they have no respect for the time that the mentor is investing, and they will not even communicate clearly to say, hey, this is not a match that is working for me. They just ghost you. So I have,
Wow.
yeah. And this is uniquely, something that I just don't understand. Like, just say that
Yeah.
this match doesn't work for me. I think that is better. But I guess they're used to dating apps. People are used to dating apps, and the behavior,
Is kind
there is
of
no
going.
line between this is a professional setting and that is a dating app. There's no
Yeah.
line. And
Yeah.
I think the dating apps have spoiled us.
Mm.
in this way, for like complete disregard for other people.
Yeah.
Either entitlement, which is like you deserve an answer from absolutely everybody, or ghosting people, and when you owe them an explanation because they've literally given you time and
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah.
So yeah, point two, I think missed learning or opportunity is quality of mentees and
Mm.
developing this entire concept
Yeah.
of mentorship doesn't exist yet, and we're far from it.
Yeah.
I think the third and last one is the big learning, I think, is that, when you make cohorts, actually mentors can also learn from each other, and many of the mentees are actually quite skilled.
Mm.
They have their own skills.
Yeah.
So that is why we have certain workshops. So we want people to interact and actually share their knowledge and speak to each other, because it's not only one on one, but one to many
Yeah.
sometimes. And you
Yeah.
have some one to many opportunities which are quite interesting.
Yeah.
And that is where the magic happens.
Mm.
Because, and also, like, I mean, I have never heard of it. It may be that I've never really heard of, I don't know, a job in interior design, but then if I join a workshop, I could suddenly be interested and be like, oh, okay, this was a latent interest, or
Yeah.
archaeology, or
Yeah.
something like that. So again, it goes back to curiosity, which is
Mm.
all the workshops, mentorship, etc., is for you to be curious and lift your head up
Yeah.
from your day to day operational work, and you're like, okay, what is out there in
Mm.
the world?
Yeah. Beside being like a good communicator that you've mentioned, right? How else can a mentee, how can you be a good mentee in general? Because I have few mentors, right? So, but I sometimes struggle in understanding how to take up the conversation, how to move forward with
Mhm.
certain conversations. How can you kind of do that? Did you have your first hand experience with that?
Yeah. I mean, so number one, I think that all the institutions I've been to, like BITS
Yeah.
Pilani, I'm Bangalore, especially BITS Pilani, the biggest dividend is in having these informal mentors.
Mm.
I've had hundreds of them, and I am where I am or what I'm doing only. Okay, not only, that's a little too much, but
Yeah.
a lot of credit to them.
Mm.
How did I fall? I think communication, beyond communication, is relationship building. And I know it's a very generic term, but I'll give you a very concrete example. All the mentors that I've had are from clubs that I was in. And this is
Mm.
the model that institutions follow. So
Yeah.
in BITS Pilani, I was in the debating club, English drama club, English press club, etc. That is
Okay.
where you pick a common activity. So I'm like, okay, we're doing something similar. We're spending a lot of time together.
Yeah.
I get to know you as a person. I do something that is common, mutual, interesting. We talk about similar stuff, about, I don't know, French films and Truffaut and stuff like that. And by the way, you also tell me what you're doing professionally, like, oh, you're preparing for consulting and so on. And that's how
Mm.
I even got into the consulting club, which I absolutely was so bad at.
Yeah.
I remember also, like, the first interview I did with the consulting club, this senior of mine, like, his his name is Ayer. He was like, "Oh my god, you stank up the room. It was so bad." So he could tell me that because we had a personal relationship. I mean,
Yeah.
I did take it to heart, but I knew he had good intentions in mind. He wanted to help me.
Yeah.
So, this entire relationship building of, I know you more as a
Hmm.
person, we have common interests. I'm helping you as well, because I'm telling
Yeah.
you what's happening in my batch, what we are thinking, about the initiatives that you are running. It's a two-way dialogue, two-way process. I know you as a
Yeah.
person, we have common interests. All of that goes into relationship building. And I am not kidding that no matter how much they dress it up in like other things, all the clubs and departments are meant to do that. And I am
Wow.
still friends with all these people
Yeah.
across institutions, because we
Hmm.
shared a lot of time together. It takes time
Yeah.
and effort to build those relationships. And I think the biggest takeaway from mentorship is, okay, I'm not just going to send you a LinkedIn request as a mentor and that's done. Relationship building,
Yeah.
tick. No,
Yeah.
like, you have these chats, and
Yeah.
then you literally want to stay in touch with each other. I know in the Connect mentorship, there are people who travel to different cities and met. A
Oh, wow.
mentor traveled to Delhi and then told his mentee that, okay, I'm in Delhi, let's catch up. And then they caught up
Yeah.
over coffee and so on. So it's something for life if you do
Yeah.
it well. And that doesn't mean, hi, good morning, have you eaten food?
Yeah.
Not that type. And it's not also the LinkedIn request and I forget you.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in between, right? Okay, we were
Yeah.
in the same city and, I needed help or I just wanted to say hi, no agenda, like things like that. And
Yeah.
also not hitting on them like that. I don't know. People just don't know,
Okay.
what the lines are. And then we have
Yeah.
to like set up, okay,
Yeah.
this is a professional relationship building. Like, this is what
Mm,
you
mm.
mean
Yeah.
by it. So, and I wouldn't blame it. I mean, this is probably a new concept. Everyone learns on the way, but
Yeah.
draw your boundaries, but build relationships, professional ones.
Yeah. No, I get that, but I'll definitely be interested in some of the stories off camera.
I have many, many, many embarrassing
uh,
ones which you cannot talk about in public. And the number of things I have to deal with are
yeah.
insane.
Oh,
And that is, I think, people think I'm the meanest person on earth, which I
yeah.
am on text. I love being the police. And
Yeah.
honestly, some people have called me Hitler.
Oh,
They're like, oh my
damn.
God, you're such a Hitler for policing us, this, that. I'm like, okay, but there are strict rules which are applicable to everyone. And it is for this platform. So you have to follow those rules. And I am the creator. So,
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to enforce those rules.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else.
So let's imagine a world of, it's 2035. Connect has a good chunk of years by that time. Uh, there's a good amount of members now. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind when it comes to Connect in general? And what do you expect queer professionals to look like at that time?
Yeah. Okay. Really, really tough. Because I like to think in terms of months and years, not
Yeah.
decades. I don't know how it's going to evolve. But
Mm.
honestly, my idea was very simple, which is it's like a marketplace for resources. So I want to know all the queer people, the queer entrepreneurs, housing, blah blah, like in the city. And instead of reaching out to me as a person,
Yeah.
it's connecting the right dots.
Mm.
So people basically connect with each other to make magic happen. I think
Yeah.
to summarize it, it's building a community.
Mm.
And that community is self-sustaining, has goals, achieves 100 different things, but it is
Yeah.
a common platform to
Mhm.
build that community. And I think it will remain that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, this definition can be used for anything. It literally
Very true.
applies to Facebook, X, Instagram. Every social networking platform is a community, but it's just that the way the community engages or what they do for each other is very different. And this
Mm.
one is meant for queer people helping each other outside of parties and dating apps.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's helping them professionally. And like I told you,
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest success would be if many of these people come together and somehow you have out and proud queer professionals
Mhm.
like um paying it forward or like
Yeah.
giving back
Yeah.
to the community. And they will say, okay, this helped me let go of my inhibitions. Connect helped me make the right connections. And I've been in this profession for 10 years. And now I am an industry leader that is out, really famous. And I'm willing to give back and
Yeah.
make many more people like me. Because
Mm.
I know that I looked up to some people who were out, like literally there
Yeah.
was one or two of them. And I remember, I mean, actually, I remember very clearly that there was one I am Bangalore senior who came to one
Mhm.
of the parties.
Yeah.
And Nipun. His name is Nipun, and he was the first queer person that I met in person. And I was like, I want
Wow.
to be like him. He's so
Yeah.
comfortable in his skin. He's a
Yeah.
consultant. He's absolutely normal, quote unquote, because I
Yeah.
only got Karan Johar films before that. And he inspired me to do a lot. So I think that is the vision for Connect, that I just want people to go up on stage and be, it can be anything, like
Mm.
world famous architects, AI professionals, designers, consultants, product managers, whatever. And they're like, I will talk about my queer experience and I want to create many more people like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has being a queer person changed your leadership style? Do you think it makes a difference? Like, do you have to be slightly more cautious, or you probably have to say a certain thing? Or in general, how do you think being a leader versus being a queer leader, right? I know a lot of people don't like to tag things, but like, has that helped you change your perspective, or even just like been different, comparatively?
I think there are many, many facets to this, but the
Hmm.
one thing that really stands out for me, and I know
Yeah.
this, is that as a queer person, we're used to self-censor a lot. And
Hmm.
why do you do that? Because since you're in school, people might tease you and say, hey, why are you so effeminate? Why are you moving your hands like that? Why are you enunciating things so much? And so on. So I know I was teased
Yeah.
a lot, and I've changed cities quite a bit. I know when I came to Navi Mumbai, people used to literally mock me behind me when I was talking in class, like waving their hands and everything. And I felt like I had to control my actions,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
I knew I was much better than them. I
Yeah.
was literally topping the class. Every teacher loved me, and that helped
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But imagine somebody who would not have all those advantages, and
Yeah.
then you tease them like that. And I know
Yeah.
such examples.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
you completely destroy their confidence.
Yeah.
And what is ironic is that even after I had all the support of all my
Yeah.
teachers and I was topping all my courses, I
Yeah.
still have that to this day, which is that I am mortally afraid
Mm.
of speaking my mind and
Yeah.
speaking out
Yeah.
and taking space because
Yeah.
I'm apologetic about existing. If I were to be very, very dark,
Yeah.
you're apologetic about your existence. So it is just impossible as a leader to speak up, to speak against,
Yeah.
because you're always afraid of how you're being perceived.
Mm.
And you
Mm.
can see, I think we are hypersensitive to reactions,
Yeah. Yeah.
that what are people saying, doing, are they twitching, are they like moving up? So I don't want to upset anybody, and that is
Mm.
why I'm afraid of saying things. And this has affected me as a leader many, many times, which is, even after we achieve everything, we're literally in the job, we have either an imposter syndrome, or many times, like, people have literally told me, why are you acting like an intern, you literally
Yeah.
have the job. But
Yeah.
I'm like, it's because I'm mortally afraid of your judgment
Mm.
and of a reaction. And I know that
Yeah.
this is called minority stress. So it's not only queer people, but it's also women.
Mm.
If there is a GD, or if there is like a board meeting, or if there is some sort of thing that we are part of,
Yeah.
unless somebody points to us and says, you speak and tell me what you think, it's just impossible to speak, you know? And even getting the confidence of, I actually know what I'm talking about, that
Yeah.
also doesn't exist, because somebody can just poke your hole and then you feel completely exposed. So I
Mm.
think that there is a lot to work on in leadership styles which are influenced by this queer identity. And it is
Yeah.
literally called minority stress, that
Wow.
that you have to consciously overcome.
Yeah.
And you have to consciously practice and, like, believe in yourself,
Mm.
not be uh like caught unawares
Mm.
and by all these judgments.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not even sure that people judge that much. You
Mm.
amplify it in your mind
Yep.
even
Yep.
more.
Yep.
Because honestly, actually, where this comes from is that, when people are not coming out or whatever, they are in mortal danger, because
Mm.
their family can throw them out
Yeah.
and so on. So you are hyper vigilant about everything that you say and do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make you an authentic leader, right? Because
Mm.
people can't see the real you.
Yeah.
They can't hear what you actually have to say.
Yeah.
Half the time you're quiet, or you just agree with what people say because you
Mm.
don't want to, piss them off, or you don't want to like annoy them.
Yeah.
Then what kind of a leader is that? That's
Mm.
not a leader that corporates value.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they
Yeah.
valued empathetic leaders, okay, maybe it would be
Mm.
different, but fact is they don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has a huge, unfortunately, the only thing I can think about is a limiting factor that you need to get out of.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because people have spoken more than enough about how you also care about diversity and you will help and so on. But I want to talk about the flip side of it, right? Which is,
Yeah.
if you don't unlock that, then you're limiting your leaders' capabilities. And it's not
I
only
think,
queer people, it's any
yeah.
minority.
Yeah. I think you voiced it out so interestingly, because there was like an incident, like, and I never kind of psychoanalyze my actions, because I was like, okay, like, like, I don't want to get too much into it, and I probably look down on that victimhood mentality that I have, that I
Hmm.
don't want to encourage about myself. But now when you said it, I think it made a lot of sense. Like, there are a lot of times and incidences where I just get uncomfortable taking up the space. I've done
Yeah.
the work. I've put, like, it's my brainchild. But even then, taking up the ownership of that is scary for me, because I don't want to piss someone off. My small town upbringing doesn't allow me to do that. Like, like, I never thought in this way, and I'll definitely need to read further about it.
Yeah, and
So
it's
yeah,
minority stress. You're not. I mean, this can be anyone. It can be an Indian in a European company. It can be a person of scheduled caste in a high caste society, which no one talks about. Also,
yeah, yeah,
even now, people are
yeah,
super uncomfortable about that.
yeah,
It can be a woman in a male dominated field. It can be
yeah.
anyone. So by addressing this, it's going to help many more people. It's not just queer people.
I think we've had a beautiful conversation, and it was very insightful. So we'll try to wrap it up with, like, not like coffee with current style, but like slightly more quick answers, right? So, what's one myth that you've heard about queer professionals in corporate that needs to bust in general?
Okay, tough. But I think that yeah, the myth is that they're always fighting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're also supportive and and they're scary
Yeah.
because they're always calling people out.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a great thing to do, but and it's totally fine to do that. But yeah, I mean, we also do other stuff which is
Mm,
constructive.
yeah.
It's not always like calling people out. They are crazy scared
Mm,
of queer professionals
yeah.
because people are scared of making mistakes.
Yeah.
But we should be like, no, it's fine and chill.
Mm, yeah. One piece of advice that changed your worldview in terms of leadership, career, queerness, anything.
Mm, okay, really tough. Oh my god, that is really putting me on the spot. Um, yeah, I think I mean it sounds cliched, but I'm like, okay, at the end of the day, decisions are irrational.
Mm, mm,
No matter how much you rationalize, and I am a consultant, so we make frameworks all the time. I have spent months making
yeah.
frameworks and making every sort of comparison, and I know for a fact
Mm,
every decision that I've taken is from the heart in the
mm,
end.
yeah.
Because I mean, okay, there is some base that okay, I'm not going to go like flipping and become a I don't know, become a gardener in a countryside because that is not my
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
But you cannot justify decisions
Mm,
logically.
yeah.
You have to take an intuitive call. So
Yeah. 5 words. I mean, you can try to be non-political altogether,
yeah,
on the
okay.
recent rollback on the DEI policies that we've seen, yeah, through
Uh,
an executive order.
mm.
So 5 words.
Do not depend on them.
Yeah. Powerful words. Yeah.
No, I mean you have to be independent.
Mm, very
Strive
true.
to be independent in every way.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one's coming to save you.
Last
That sounds
question.
mean. No, that sounds rude. No, I think it's best to have low expectations
Yeah.
so reality is better. That is
Yeah.
how Denmark is the happiest country.
Mm, mm,
Expectations low as hell and reality is much above that.
yeah.
The difference is not much or yeah.
Mm,
So yeah.
yeah. Last question. I thought, like,
No, you are
you know,
making me say all sorts of honest personally.
nah, okay. Okay.
I
But it
think it would
was,
just cause more antagonism than help anybody. And there are ways in which people can game that system.
yeah.
Unlike
Yeah.
others, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
anything else.
No,
But
no, no, I get,
this
yeah.
thing because I can't verify, right? And there's no
Yeah.
way in
There's no
which
visual
no
markers. Yep.
trust based, there's no visual markers. It leads more to abuse than to help anybody. But for trans people,
Yeah.
maybe, and I
Yeah.
think the government has already done that, so it's
Yeah.
legal in
Mm.
India. But yeah, for the rest, I would say no.
Perfect. I think this is a good wrap.
Thank
Lovely.
you and
Thank you so
best of
much.
luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
evening. Bye. Okay.